we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tell Me More with me, Tony Moore. We are back. It is hump day. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week and that everything is going swell. We took a second off, but we're now back with the jump off. Sorry for the delay. We were having some technical difficulties, but here we are. And look at me. When I tell you this is quarantine here, we are high and tight today. All right, so thank you all so much again for joining. I hope you guys have been enjoying this lovely little Instagram live show that I have going on. But today I'm super excited to talk to a good friend of mine. Her name is Erin Tillman. She's like the dating expert, the dating coach, the dating advice girl. And I wanted to talk to her about dating during quarantine. I mean, we are all caught up in Miss Rona, and during this time, more than anything, we have time to kind of settle and meet new people. So I wanted to talk to her about maybe giving some tips on how to navigate these waters during quarantine. So let's go ahead and add Erin in so that we can about some stuff. And I know that I'm going to have to readjust this. Oh, is she connected? There she is. Oh, hi, beautiful.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, let me adjust my whole situation here. You know,
I
we have
know.
setup for days.
I had to do the same thing. Like, as soon as you feel like you're just... Oh, look, we both got the blue memo.
Popping colors.
How have you been doing?
You know, I've been doing pretty good. I've been waffling between highly productive and like, oh my God, I'm just going to stay in bed all day. So I'm trying to find some sort of balance because I listen, you're freaking jumping on this creative opportunity right now, which I so appreciate. And I feel the same way, but also there's a pandemic. So, you know.
Yeah, well, I had to find balance early on. I knew that I didn't want to just kind of sit around and eat all day and watch TV, which is what I would have done. So I was like, you know what? I need to put myself on a regular schedule. I need to keep myself being creative. I need to interact with people. And so here we are. Like, that's what we're doing. And I have a balance of like, on my down days, I sit and just like recuperate, recharge, just kind of relax and then dive into this. Yeah.
We definitely
have
I mean,
to
balance is so important right now. And I feel like, I know for myself, even when we're not in a pandemic, I tend to burn myself out and I tend to be a workaholic anyway. So I'm like, all right, just check in with yourself, right?
Exactly. So we have known each other for a few years now. The first time we met was when I was doing something else creative, and I had started a talk show called 30ish, and you came on as our dating expert. And we've kept in touch ever since then. How did you, I don't think I ever found out, like, how did you even get started in this, like, dating advice coaching life?
This dating advice coaching life, exactly. So, yeah, I don't know if we ever talked about it either. So it's a long story, but basically it started pre-Tinder and pre-dating app, which makes me sound real old. But it's true. I mean, I basically and before blogs were blogs, before podcasts were a thing. So over a decade ago, I basically was just, I knew I was in Los Angeles. I moved here in 2003. And I basically was dating a lot and very social and very extroverted. And I was having a lot of fun dating. So I was like, why are so many people complaining about dating? Like, we were in Los Angeles. There's so much to do. Remember when we could actually go out and do stuff, Tony? Like out in the world and go to bars and go to festivals, right? So at that time, the golden age of Los Angeles, right? It was a really fun time. So I was like, I don't understand why single people hate dating. I have a lot of fun. Even if it's not a love match, you're going to do something fun with somebody. Like, why do we hate this? So I started a blog before it was a blog. It was a rudimentary site on GoDaddy.com, just writing about that and writing also about the double standards between men and women, cisgendered men and cisgendered women in dating and sex. I'm like, why are there so many double standards? So all of this to say, getting all my advice down or all my opinions, just opinions. For some reason at the time, again, just like, when Instagram influencers began to like hit, it's like there's always people at the beginning of the curve, like you, Tony, You're like one of the
Yeah.
first people with a talk show on Instagram right now. You're at the
Yeah.
beginning, right? And there's
Yeah.
not a lot of people. So all that to say, I stood out. People told people, it's like a word of mouth thing, like, hey, this girl is like talking about like this stuff about dating, and we haven't heard many women talk about the double standards. So yeah, it just kind of bloomed from there. I'm super long-winded, so I'm gonna wrap this answer
Oh, no,
up. But yeah, but long story short, that became dating apps reaching out and saying, hey, can you help us make our dating apps safer? Or
yeah.
colleges were reaching out and saying, okay, so now when dating apps started, right, it was like, well, how do we make our students safer on campus? Like, this could be dangerous or problematic or consent, you know, all these things. And so it just kind of built from there. I had a radio show for a while. People were like, oh my God, like, come on, do your own show. Do you know how to like run a board, like a like board music?
Like
I'm
the
like,
soundboard,
no. They're like,
mixer
we'll
board.
teach. What?
Yeah.
What?
Like
No,
the mixer board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mixer board. They were like, we'll teach you. I'm like, okay. So they taught me how to run. I was producing my own radio show. Cut to starting to get invited to speak at colleges, conventions, sexuality conventions. And then, you know, because I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a licensed therapist, I team up with those people. So
Yeah.
that led to, here's the wrap up of the story. The Me Too movement happens, you know, and because at that point I'd been doing things in dating and dating apps for about 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I not talk about consent? Like,
Yeah.
it's, even though it's not only about consent with dating, it's consent in the workplace and consent with all these things. It's like, how do I not talk about it? So I brought in all these expert friends of mine and wrote a book called the Consent Guidebook that I wrote 2 years ago, and it has 40 different experts, health teachers, sex therapists, adding advice about how to be consensual. So that's my long-winded version. Oh, and I used to run speed dating events, and I used to be a matchmaker, which was a crazy, hilarious job.
What do you find is the most common, I don't want to say mistake, but we'll call it a mistake, that people make when it comes to dating?
Well, number one is we put unreasonable expectations on the people we're going out with. So, you know, and it's I get it. It's an exciting thing. There's all this hope and like, oh my God, is this person going to be the person I'm going to end up with? But and we feel that internally, but we put that on other people. I'll give you three.
Yeah.
I'll give you three things, Tony. So unreasonable expectations. The other thing is that we assume somebody is only seeing us. Okay. And like all the time, like, because I coach clients one-on-one. I used to do some group coaching. I might be starting a webinar coaching service. Anyway, but so, you know, the unreasonable expectations is one. Number two, people assuming that, oh, well, we slept together, so we're a couple now.
Yeah.
Never make assumptions. Always assume that you're not the only person until you have a conversation. Somebody just tweeted something about that. We make assumptions about that we're the only person in this person's life. Okay. Number three, the other thing that we do really badly is we don't make dating a fun time, because it really should be fun. Now, that's what I would have said pre-coronavirus. So now it's real tricky because, dating should be fun. So I think at some point we'll probably discuss, like, how do you make dating fun now that we're all quarantined, right?
Yeah.
There are still ways to make it fun, but those are the three things people do wrong. So unreasonable expectations, don't do it. Assuming that you're the only person someone's dating or sleeping with, don't do it. And assuming you can't have a fun time or just not having a fun time, don't do that.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to dating, we put so much pressure on ourselves because at different points of our life, you know, dating becomes, you know, it runs the spectrum of not so serious to like, okay, like I really got to be serious about it. And I find that in dating, you not only come across very interesting people, but then I think you find out a lot about yourself, and you find out more about what you want. Like you were saying, not having those unreasonable expectations. It's like we go into dating like, I want this, 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 and this. And then you realize, well, you know, I can go into it wanting that, but this is actually what I really want. And this is, you know, really what I'm looking for. And you kind of are navigating yourself in
Yeah.
figuring all that out as well.
Right. Well, and also it's really important to remember that you should be a little bit open to someone that you weren't expecting. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of us have a type or
Yes.
a certain like maybe list of things that are we should all, oh, by the way, have a list of non-negotiables. There's a list of things
Yes.
that we should have that are like, okay, there's no wiggle room with this. You can't be racist. You can't
Mhm.
be
Yeah.
like blah blah blah, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so those are the basics. But then beyond that, I think in terms of physical type, of course, there's an ideal maybe, but also I think it's really important to be open to someone who isn't what you expected to be attracted to or someone you didn't expect to be in a relationship with. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I met my boyfriend. And by the way, my boyfriend I met on Tinder. So for
Yeah.
everyone, and there's so much, so you got to rein me in if you need to, Tony. But I'm just going to do a quick segue here.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
boyfriend and I met on Tinder a year ago, and he's trans. He's a trans man or trans masculine. And I only dated cis men before that.
Yeah.
I was in a place where I mean I've always been. I don't want to say it like I've always been, but I've always been open-minded. I've always had trans people in my life, gay people in my life, all whatever, Christian people, conservative people. Like I've always had a range of people in my life, and
Hmm.
so it wasn't like some of my close friends are like when I told them we were a couple, they were like, no, that makes sense, and I'm like,
Yeah.
really? Even though I've never dated anyone other than a cis man. So all of it to say though, when we met on Tinder, so here's the quick story. I basically had just gotten out of a relationship that was real weird. It ended real weird. That's a story for another time. But I was just kind of like, there was a certain type of person I was dating. They all looked different, but there was a certain traits that were similar. And I'm like, I see a pattern. So self-awareness. I see a
Yes.
pattern within myself. And I want to switch it up. I don't like what's happening. I don't like the last few people I've ended up with, or it ended weirdly, or like there ended up being a lack of respect or a lack of a meeting of the minds. And so
Hmm.
I went on Tinder and I'm like, you know what? I just need to meet new people, new
Yeah.
human beings, not necessarily for dating or marriage or relationship, but I went on Tinder and I switched it to men and women. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not suggesting that look, people's orientation is their orientation. I had a conversation with someone the other day and I'm like, I might have been in the realm of pansexual my whole life, but because I grew
Yeah.
up in a small town in Ohio, maybe I just wasn't. I didn't necessarily think that I would be interested in someone that wasn't a cis man, even though
Right.
I've always been attracted to feminine men. Again, that's a whole other story. Long story short, Tony. We matched. He was amazing. He honestly looked. I say don't stick to a type. He actually looked like a lot of my exes, interestingly
Uh-huh.
enough. And we met. He's like, "Do you want to go for a date?" I said, "Yeah." And we met. And the moment he walked into our date, like at a restaurant, I was like, "I don't know what's gonna happen, but I know this person's gonna be significant in my life." I just
Yeah.
energetically, I just knew it, and I kind of
Yeah.
knew it on his profile too. But all of it to say, if I hadn't been in a place of I'm open to something new. Whatever that new is going to be. I didn't know at the time. I just was like,
Yeah.
I want to change my patterns. If I
Yeah.
hadn't been like that, then I never would have met him. And he's just the most amazing person. So
And
there you
that's
go.
that's the thing that I have discovered about a lot of my friends is that a lot of people have ended up with people that necessarily weren't on their list or their type or anything like that. It was when they opened themselves up to other types of people and other forms of love that they actually found what they were looking for. And I also know some people who are very to their list and to their type, and if you don't fit that, then they don't give you a try. And I'm thinking to myself, you're probably missing out
Oh,
on a
yeah.
lot of really good people. Maybe people that can help you grow, people that can help you figure things out or realize, hey, I never knew I could be attracted to this particular type, but I am because of you. You know what I mean?
Right. And I just want to reinforce real quick again, like my story is my story.
Yeah,
Excuse me. And I don't want to say again, orientation is orientation. So I don't in any way I'm not trying to say, oh, just try that. Like, no. I mean, again, I
no,
think there was something rooted in me that was always there.
yeah,
But maybe I just wasn't it took a certain person to present themselves to me for me to be like, oh my God, this person. And then I went through a whole thing about what does that mean? What is my orientation? Does that mean that I'm not who I thought I was? All of this BS. You're still who you are, whatever, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just it's something new that I had never considered. So, but
yeah,
but that's my personal journey. Everyone's journey
yeah.
is unique in that way.
And everyone has their story, has their journey. But I think the common thing is that if you just stick to this list and you stick to this type and you stick to, do you check off all these boxes? And if not, then I don't want anything to do with you. You're going to be stuck. And then there's that pattern of dating the same type of people, and you're not finding what you're ultimately looking for. Because what you want in someone may not be in the shell of what you're looking for.
Different
And so,
package, exactly.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes, you have to realize that there are other people wrapped up in other beautiful packages, and you just have to give yourself that opportunity to go shopping a little bit.
Go shopping. No, but you're right. I mean, let's break it down like this too. I mean, it's basically your happiness. It's your
Yeah.
happiness. And so potentially you're cutting off, the source of potential great happiness because you might be stuck to these things, these
Mhm.
5 things or whatever that aren't necessarily, like, I mean, 6'4". Like, I mean, again, being a matchmaker before, like, there are so many things that people are like, no, I can't wiggle on this. I'm like, really? They have to be 6'6"? Really? They have to be
Yeah.
blonde? They have to be blonde, and they have to. I'm like, I feel like there could be some wiggle room with that, right? I mean, in terms of
Yeah.
like, having integrity. Okay, like, you should. That's a good one to keep, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, some of
Yeah.
these things, it's like you might be. It's more about, you could be cutting off your own happiness by
Mhm.
limiting who you would consider, is the point.
Yeah. Agreed. Um, do you find apps helpful or harmful? Like I know that you found your boo on Tinder.
Right.
But I feel like everyone has different opinions about the apps. But generally speaking, do you find them useful or harmful?
Well, I mean, are we talking about in this era of coronavirus when we can't be out at bars or anywhere meeting people? Because, yeah, you probably should be on the apps right now, is the
Well,
point.
yeah, but I mean, we'll get into like more of the quarantine part of dating in a second. But just like generally speaking, like, what are your thoughts on apps?
I think that anything can be problematic. Bars can be problematic. Clubs can be problematic. Networking groups can be problematic.
Mhm.
I think that for me and the clients I've coached, they've all met people in different ways. There's not been one way that's worked for everybody. So a lot of them have, I'd say there's like, maybe a fourth dating apps, a fourth in real life, a fourth networking, blah, blah, blah. So all that to say, I don't see any problem with dating apps if you know what you're doing on the apps. There's
Yeah.
going to be, so, the app that I recommend to a lot of people if they do try, controversial, but it's Tinder. I am not sponsored by Tinder, but everybody's on it. And
Yeah.
so, even like when I was, okay, for example, when I was at a matchmaking agency, we were matching people. We only could match people with the people in the system. The system only had a few thousand people. So,
Yeah.
it's not like the best person in the world. It's the best person in the small pool. So a place
Mhm.
like Tinder, an app like Tinder, if you're choosing the right app for you, because there's a lot of apps that are, there's some niche apps. But if you're in a big pool of people, you have more of a chance of meeting more people who are fitting what you're looking for, but you gotta be selective. So
Mhm.
apps, I like apps if you are able to choose wisely and
Yes.
select and swipe for people who are aligned with you and say no to people who are thirst traps who aren't aligned with you. Having said that, if you're a thirst trap, you want a thirst trap, then go for it. Because everyone's looking for something different. That's the point, though. Everyone's looking for something different. So, just know what you want. If you can go onto an app, knowing who you are and knowing what you want and what you don't want,
Yeah.
in terms of character, again, then you'll have you'll have some success and meet some good people dating
Mhm.
and friendship wise on apps. So I'm not anti-app at all, but I think a lot of people go on the apps just being like, oh, well, here I am and I'm ready for whoever, and I have no, like, like that person's cute, let's swipe for them, whatever, which is obviously part of it. It's a visual thing we're doing. It's very
Yeah.
visual dating apps, but you have to play. There's a game. It is a game. I hate to say it, but it is, and you got to know how to play it. So if you know how to play
Yeah.
it, apps can work. I'm not anti-app for that reason.
Yeah. So now that we are in this whole pandemic and we're stuck in quarantine, I think a lot of people obviously have more time on their hands.
Yeah.
And I feel like now people may be open to maybe, meeting other people and maybe have more time to explore the avenue of dating. Obviously, you can't go out on an actual date because, we're still social distancing. But for someone that just kind of wants to use this time to maybe, to utilize it to meet people, what are some quarantine dating tips you can give
Okay.
to people?
Well, first of all, get on the apps because, like I
Mhm.
just said, I mean, there's certain ones I prefer for various strategic reasons, but just get on an app. Everyone's on the apps. Even
Yeah,
if you weren't in a place, you're not necessarily looking for a partner or something. It's just a way to be social. Again, but that's why it's important to know what you're looking for, etc. So number one, get on the apps. That's step one.
yeah, yeah,
And you don't have to be on them all day, every day, but it's just a way to connect with people. That's what I was going to say before, too. A lot of us, when we were working, are very busy. Our schedules are very busy, right? And so
yeah,
apps are another way to meet people if you aren't going to clubs or bars. And if you
yeah,
aren't, maybe you have a job that's not very social. So, maybe you have a job where you're, at a desk all day, so an app is a really good way to meet new people where you don't have to like go into a crowded space. And again, when you're quarantined, it's also a great way to meet people. So tips.
yeah, of course.
So I just actually coached my first quarantine client last week. I was so excited. I helped her set up a profile and stuff. And she was like, she's been married before. She's divorced and single for like 2 years. She's like, I don't know. I've been like not wanting to do it. I'm like, well, now is the time to do it. Now is the
Yeah,
time. Let's do this. So
yeah,
my tips I gave her, right? Um, she was nervous about, I'm just like, swipe for anyone who seems interesting. After that, you can weed through. So don't take too much time on it. Again, even though we
mhm,
have a lot of time, it's really important to remember your time is valuable. So when you
yeah,
start matching with people, it's also very important that it's important. I think it's a really good time to really get to know somebody for real. Because
yeah,
we do have a lot of time. We have a lot of, I mean, there's so many unknowns. I know that I've been having some anxiety around like what the F, how long are we going to be quarantined? What is life going to actually look like after this, right? And
yeah.
so with that, you can have those conversations, but number two, don't only talk about coronavirus. Don't
Right.
you do it.
Yeah,
This should be like this, Tony, for me, this interview, like this is an escape. This is a really
yeah,
nice escape from like whatever nonsense I was gonna do when I woke up today. Long story short, that's what these virtual conversations and virtual dates can be. Okay, so don't try to keep it positive. Yes, it's important to connect and be authentic, but when you're actually starting to match with people and talk with them, don't only talk about coronavirus. Keep it positive, okay?
yeah,
Um, Number three, um, also, I think it's really, and Jet's my boyfriend. We talked about this, and we had a first virtual date. We role played for the people. It's on my Instagram page. You can watch it. It's hilarious and ridiculous. We're both big hams. We're big hammy people. It's ridiculous. But so long story short, though, we were talking about how I feel like people shouldn't just be dating only one person or talking to only one person on the apps, especially right now. How would you date pre-coronavirus? Okay,
yeah,
I think most of us would go out with someone. You're testing the waters with people, getting to know them. That should be the same. Don't just latch on to one person. I think that even for people who are more monogamous and are looking for something serious, this is a different time of getting to know people virtually. So you're not able to meet them in person and feel their energy. I can feel your energy in a way this way, but it's two
yeah,
dimensional, right? So
Yeah.
so it's really important to not like latch on and not, like we said before earlier, not make it so that you're like, oh my God, I had this amazing conversation or this amazing virtual date with somebody. I'm only going to talk to them. Keep your
Mm.
options open is the point for
Yeah.
now. For now, you know, until we can actually meet in person, the people we're
Yeah.
matching with.
Mm. Um, so far we have get on the apps, keep
Get
it
on the
positive.
apps, stay
Yes,
positive.
yes. And the third one was to
So keep your options open, I guess. I
keep
mean,
options open.
don't invest all of your time and energy in only one person
Yeah.
that you've matched with while you're on these apps. Or like, you know, like I have friends that are doing virtual game nights, which are so fun. And I know somebody who was like, wait, who was that person on that game night the other day? They're super cute, right?
Hmm.
So however you're meeting people virtually, just don't put all your eggs in that person's basket, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many unknowns. And again, going back to the very beginning again, don't assume that you're the only person that one person's talking to. It's really
Yeah.
important.
My friend actually just participated in a kind of like a Love is Blind kind of a thing, but they called
Oh
it
yeah.
yeah, they called it DC is Blind. And so they basically set up these virtual dates, kind of like, the pod dates on Love is Blind. And you start off with a certain amount of dates and then you choose the people that you want to have other dates with. Like it was like I thought that was very interesting to do, especially during this time. And then I read somewhere else where um someone's doing like a quarantine version of The Bachelor, where like, and it's on Instagram, and they like present this bachelor, and like, there's like instead of a rose ceremony, it's a tissue ceremony. So people like during all of this have been very creative. My roommate actually did one for a guy that was very like Love is Blind, and it's like you go into a room and no one can see you, but you're just kind of talking to a bunch of people, and then like these virtual dates are set up. So I think for sure people are definitely utilizing this time to connect. If you do find someone that you connect with, and again, obviously you can't do like an in-person date. What are some ideas to still keep it, I guess, interesting? Because, like, yeah, you can go like on Zoom or maybe exchange phone numbers and do FaceTime or something like that. But like in this time, like, do you have any tips on keeping like a virtual date interesting?
Yes, of course I do, of course. So when you're getting to know somebody, you're going to understand or learn what their interests are, right? So there's a lot of ideas around what someone's interests are. So you could do a group. I like the group date idea too. If you're kind of nervous about like one-on-one, it's like, oh, hey, my friend's having a virtual game night. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Like, let me invite you. If you are to the point where you feel comfortable doing a one-on-one date, I love the idea of a cooking dinner challenge. Like, who can cook this? Like, pick a recipe. Who can cook it the best? You're doing it, and again, a lot of this is FaceTime based, right? So it's like assuming that you feel comfortable giving somebody your phone number and exchanging that information, right? So Zoom or FaceTime, here's a recipe, let's do it, and you're watching in real time each other cooking. It's like a cook-off, so to speak. That's super cute. If you're interested in cooking. If you hate cooking, don't do that one. But also, like, I love the idea of watching a movie together virtually. Something scary is great. Like, so you start the movie, like, let's pick a movie. You start the movie at the same time. You're watching in real time, and then you're, like, FaceTime watching each other. It's like, oh, that was scary, or, oh, like, that was crazy. That's super cute, too. Like, I mean, you could do a happy hour wine date. You could do a virtual dance party date. Listen, all of these DJs are killing it right now on Instagram and stuff. I mean, I personally have some DJ friends, and I'm like, there's, by the way, can we just say, like, their setups are amazing. Are you seeing this, Tony?
Yeah, some people have like full on like it looks like the inside of the club. They got the lights, they got like the music that's just going, like they are into it. They have people like dancing and stuff. Like
I know, right? That's what have like 2 cameras going and stuff. It's amazing. So,
Yeah.
so a dance party, a virtual dance party is fun if you like dancing. So the point is to pick an activity that you usually would enjoy and make sure that person enjoys it too, and then choose that thing. Because if you're not
Yeah.
into dancing, if you either one of you hate it, don't do that date, right?
Yeah.
So I do have a list of 10 date ideas on my Instagram page at Dating Advice TRL. Also, if you're into video games, there's a lot of people doing on Twitch or whatever the platforms are that you use. There's a lot of
Yeah.
video games you could do. You could do a video game date, you know?
Yeah.
You could do a, if you're in a state where weed is legal, you could do a 420 date, you know? There's a lot of ideas. So, I mean, this is a time where creativity is really important, right?
Yeah.
You could go on a hike. We can't go hiking because our hiking trails are closed, but you could go on a walking date. So, like, my neighborhood is very walkable, right? So I've actually done that with some friends. I was just like, I'm gonna go for a walk around the neighborhood or to the store, and I'll FaceTime while I'm walking. So it
Yeah.
feels like it's the closest thing you can get to actually like being together while you're doing these activities together. So bring your date along with you when you're doing things, you know?
Yeah. So I feel like during this time too, we're reminded of how single we are if we don't have
Oh,
a significant other. How does one deal with that during quarantine? Like, kind of, if you don't want to really put yourself out there, like you don't want to really get on the apps and do this whole virtual thing or anything like that, but you're just single AF and like trying to get through this whole quarantine. Do you have any advice or tips on that?
yeah. I mean, it's tricky, right? It's like, I was single. Like, this is the first time I've been in like a monogamous relationship for like 20 years, Tony. So I very much know the feeling. I can't know the feeling of it being during this quarantine and that, but I know what it's, especially being an extrovert, I know that feeling very well, and living alone as well. I know what it's like,
Yeah.
on some level. And so, I mean, because the best I can say, because again, this is a whole new realm and a whole new experience that is new to our generation, right?
Mhm.
Or to these generations, is just try to interact with as many people as you can when you have the
Yeah.
energy to do it. I mean, there's some days, like you were saying before, where you're just like, oh, I just can't today. But I think it's really important to, say yes to those game nights that your friends are inviting you to, your virtual brunches your friends are inviting you to. Because again,
Yeah.
you never know who you'll meet, and even if your objective isn't to meet someone and date someone, I think the human connection and social interaction is what we're missing right now.
Hmm.
And especially, like, to your point, especially if you do live alone. Like, I've lived alone my whole time in LA. Like, I'm an only child. Like, I like my space, but then it's a double-edged sword, right? Because then in these
Yeah.
scenarios, it's like, oh man, I live alone, and yeah. So be as social as you can, and
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out. And again, I think that this is a really good time to try something new. Like,
Yeah.
if you were a certain thing pre-coronavirus, maybe try something new. I'm not saying be on all the dating apps if that's not your thing, but I do think that dating apps or any sort of virtual network of interaction where you can meet people is really good, and kind of important just for our own
Yeah.
sanity right now,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I think instead of wallowing in, like, how single you are, or maybe if you feel alone, yeah, like take those virtual happy hours with someone, or if your friends have set up, quarantine karaoke. Karaoke may not be your thing, but like at least it's something that keeps you interacting with people, instead of kind of having those moments where you're dwelling on like, oh, I really wish that I could get through this with someone, or I really wish I had someone here, and then kind of feeling that frustration of like being alone.
well, let's really quickly talk about the reality of that, Tony.
Yeah.
There are a lot of couples who are real struggling, like hardcore struggling right now in quarantine together. So
Hmm.
single people, whenever you're like, just remember, just think, like, literally, Tony, there's going to be so many things are going to come out of this, right? There's going to be so many breakups. There's going to be a lot of babies as well for the het people out there, the heterosexual
Yeah.
people out there. I mean, but like, literally, imagine if you had just started dating somebody and maybe you had just moved in together. And then
Yeah.
you're quarantined and you're still trying to figure each other out. And it's like, oh crap, there's no escape. No, no, no,
None.
no, no. So if you're single, remember that sometimes. Seriously. Or like, I mean, people in marriages that, you know, maybe they were doing not so good before and they're, you know,
Yeah.
quarantined. So it's actually kind of a not so bad place to be in. To
Yeah.
have your own space, and then virtually you can jump in with friends or jump in with friends, right? Really
Yeah.
quickly on that note too, last week I fully experienced oversaturation of virtual interaction because I am an extrovert. I basically overscheduled myself and I was exhausted. So
Yeah.
there's some sort of balance we're all trying to find between like total solitude and then freaking my eyes hurt and my head hurts because I've been on so many virtual calls with everybody. Oh my God. So
Yes.
find
Yeah.
whatever works for you. Or maybe like I feel like just take it day by day. Literally for me, I wake up, like today I woke up and honestly, Tony, if it wasn't for this, I might have stayed in bed for a good part of the day. But I was like, no,
Well,
no,
I'm glad I got you out of bed.
I know, no, really, because I'm not that girl anyway. Like I'm again, like we said before, I'm pretty productive, so I'm glad that I had a
Yeah.
reason to like do the makeup and the hair and the, you know. But like, yeah, just it's really important to check in with ourselves and like I said, do something different that you wouldn't have done pre-coronavirus, but also listen to yourself. Like, there's no need to
Yeah.
push yourself. If something's going to be a terrible experience for you, there's no need to do that. But if there's something
Yeah.
that maybe you could try, why not try? It's a great time to try new things right now.
Exactly. And I think that's the key thing is that, people don't try new things when it comes to like dating and things like that, where they get so visually stuck on this is what's going to make me happy that they don't realize that there are other options. You know what I
Or
mean? Like,
what they think is going to make them happy. Because really,
yes.
there's something that might make them happy that is not what they thought would make them happy, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I think just one of the key things about just dating is just being open. Like I think people forget that. I mean, not saying that you welcome every opportunity because sometimes not all opportunities are great opportunities. But you just be open to exploring and having fun.
Yes.
And meeting new people and having new connections and especially now that that we have so much time on our hands, if you've been afraid to get on that dating app, get on it. Why not?
Now's
Like
the
try it
time.
out. Yeah. And just and intentions are like you said earlier, know your intent. If you're going into it really wanting to find something, then that's great. If your intent is to go in and kind of just browse, see what's out there. That's fine, but also make those intentions clear to
Right.
whoever you're interacting with.
Right.
Communication
Be
is
clear.
always so key.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to be clear about your intentions. The client I was mentioning last week that I signed up on the apps and got her profile together. We were talking a lot about that. I was like, listen, people are going to do what they're going to do out there, but it's up to you
hmm
to be selective. It's up to you. You can't get mad. I mean, you can, but it's wasted energy to get mad at someone living their life however they're living it. But
yeah,
it's more important than ever on apps, on the app, within the app experience, the experience of dating apps. It's really important that you make choices and you be aware that you're the one choosing. Like,
yeah,
you're the one choosing yes or no. You're the one who says, ooh, I don't like what that person said. That's weird. I'm going to make another choice and say no now and stop the
hmm
conversation. Or, like, it's really important to remember we have that power. And so if you go
hmm
into the dating apps with that mindset,
yeah,
it's a different, it's less, these things are happening to me. Having
yeah,
said that, I feel like that was a little shamey what I just said. So I also want to say that consent still applies. And by the way, Planned Parenthood has been killing it. They have been killing it on Instagram. They've been posting all things. Can you get COVID-19 from kissing? The answer
yeah,
allegedly is no. Can you get COVID-19 from vaginal sex? They only said vaginal in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, kissing is yes. Sorry. You can get COVID-19 from kissing. You can't, for now, get it from vaginal sex. That's a whole other conversation I've had with some of my friends who are sexperts and in the sex education realm. Like, how is that going to change people's like intimate lives, right? How is this going to
Yeah.
change that? Like, when we are unquarantined, how are we going to choose who we're going to like? Oh, did you have coronavirus? Like, what's your temperature? Should we take your temperature before we like make out? Like, I mean, how is that going to look? None of us
Yeah.
know. And so it is this whole like new thing of like, what's it all going to look like? But good. But again, we don't have to worry as much about that right now because we're still quarantined. So again, back to the first step, be social virtually. Whatever that means to you, be social. Yeah. Again, for human connection. Because again, I like I said, last week I was on all the virtual like games and all the game nights and happy hours. And it was too much for me. But I also know that I am somebody who, even though I am dating somebody, and even though I have a lot of friends, I've definitely felt many moments of loneliness. Because it's a collective feeling of how what we were doing isn't like, you know, like Tony, I'm a huge sports person, okay? And like, you know, I love group things like festivals and like all that. And so, you know, they're saying that that's like like that, even when we open things up, like no, you know, and it's like those things are hard to hear, you know, and so there's just so many levels to all of this. So it's important to still stay connected to humans. So however you can connect to other people, it's really great. That I just kind of rambled all over the place. Let me roll it back real quick, okay? It's still also important to be consensual. That was my point of bringing up Planned Parenthood and the things they've been posting, because they've been posting some stuff about consent too. Especially for those of you who might be new to the dating apps, even though it's virtual, consent still matters. If you like, say, let's do an example. So like, say you're matched with someone, you're chatting with them, they're super cute, they think you're super cute. Things escalate to where you're flirting and stuff. There might be a conversation. I'll keep it PG-13. There might be a conversation around, oh my gosh, like I would love to send you a like sexy picture, or would you want to FaceTime in a like sexy way or something like that. Now, if you can have a conversation about this together and you're both on the same page, consenting adults, I love it. But please remember that even though it's virtual, sometimes a virtual interaction can seem not so real. It's very real, and just make sure you aren't pressuring anyone or nagging anyone to do those things with you, okay? And please don't just send. I mean, listen, people are different. I know that different groups of people interact differently, but just as a general rule, it just can be at the very least very jarring to like, oh, we just met, and then you get a dick pic, and you're like, wait, what? What just happened here? So
like, I didn't even know we were there yet.
Right, exactly. That's the point. So please just remember, try to remember, you know, boundaries, right? Boundaries and consent within it. So
no, that's a good thing. It's just being mindful and respectful, you know, like even though it's virtual, like, you know, you still want to be respectful of the person, and not just do things because, you know, you think that's where you are, because that might not be that person's mindset, you know. So you kind of want to fill it out, but also just say, hey, I'm thinking this, you know, is that okay? You know, and if it's not, then like, don't push it, you know, and if it is, then we're adults by all means, like, you know,
don't push the people. Don't you push people. Exactly.
So I think from this, I think people should understand that, like, yes, you know, now that we have a lot more time, and maybe this is, again, a great time to meet people, do that. And, like, you know, have your intentions of what you're looking for. Don't be afraid of the apps, and go into it with the purest of mindset. Like, you know, maybe you just want to meet new people. Maybe you just want to interact with people. Maybe you do want to just, you know, maybe meet someone on a more intimate level during this,
Right.
because now you finally have time to do that, and there's no excuse or no pressure to do it. So so quarantine date, it's fine. It's virtual. It's it's a great way to do
It's what all the kids are doing right
it's
now.
what it's
You
what
know,
all the kids are doing it now. Do it too.
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
but also, I just wanted to say real quick, Tony, as well. Like, also, I'm not like again consenting adults. If you want to go on the apps and you just want some sexy fun time with somebody, again, if it's consensual and that's what you want, great. Just
yeah.
be upfront about it so people know that's what you want and they can opt in or opt out. Okay, so whatever you're looking for, just be honest and straightforward about what it is, because there will be someone who wants the same thing. But there are also
Yeah.
going to be some people who don't. So just be clear so they can make a choice.
Exactly. Well, Erin, I'm glad we had this conversation, and I think it's a great topic, because I think some people have been wanting to navigate how to quarantine date, and how to do this, and how to, now that they have time for it, what to do, since you can't go out and meet people. So now you're
I
kind of
know.
you're on the apps, just kind of navigating that. But I think that, again, this brings out the creativeness in a lot of people. And if you are on the apps, and you do meet someone, there's still some very fun virtual ways to have that first date until you can
Oh my
uh
God, yes.
do something.
Also, a fitness date, Tony. Fitness. There's so many
Yeah,
classes. I've taken so many virtual classes. I've been doing some Zumba and all that. Like,
yeah.
if you're into working out and that kind of thing, like, do like a virtual workout together. Oh my God, that's great. Sorry, I was like, yes, yes.
No, those are all, like, great ideas. The cooking one is a perfect one. Game night, so that it's not just like one-on-one personal, but like you're at least amongst other friends, and you can kind of get to know each other that way. So it's almost kind of like all the stuff that you would normally do in person, you can still somehow find a way to do it virtually. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well, those are some great tips. I hope that people like take that and like run with it, and
I
maybe.
hope so too, because we don't need any quarantine casualties out here.
No, because I said it week one. I was like, friendships and relationships are gonna look real different once we're able to go outside. Because if you've been around your partner for 24 hours, like,
Whoa.
that's different. Because sometimes you have work, or you have, like, oh, I'm going to this function without you to
Yep.
kind of do that. But now you see all the little things about this person, and you're either gonna like it, love it, or don't want no more of
Okay,
it.
well, that's what I'm saying. So again, single people, when you're in your moments of, oh, I'm sad, just remember that. Just remember you could be quarantined with someone that you really kind of hate.
Oh, good. Well, Erin, thank you so much again. And, we'll be talking very soon.
Yay, Tony, you're the best. Keep
Yeah.
up the great show. This is so great. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. And you keep up your great work, too, that you're doing with people, and get that virtual webinar up so that you can continue teaching people out here how to not be afraid of dating.
Thank you. I will. I'm getting on it right now.
Okay. Bye, Erin.
Bye.
Oh. I absolutely adore Erin. Like, she is great. And as you can see, she's a big ball of energy, and I absolutely love that. If you want to keep up with her, check her out on Instagram at Dating Advice Girl. She has some wonderful tips on dating if you're trying to put yourself out there, and especially during this quarantine time. Some great tips on that, and also how to do that virtual date with someone that you can't meet in person right now. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Tell Me More with me, Tony Moore. Stay tuned, because right after this, we have Sergio Hudson, fashion designer, coming on to talk all things fashion. Until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll be back on in just a few. Bye, y'all.